What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about key tips to finding the right branding agency for you and your business. Before we get into that, guys, we're getting to the end of the year. We are ready to kick off 2022 with a bang. If you are in need of the clarity and focus to kick off 2022 with a bang, I highly recommend you book a brand assessment with me before you get started. This way, we can get a lot more clear on what and what not to do when it comes to building and growing your brand. And you actually have somebody on the sidelines working with you, keeping you accountable, making sure that you're spending money on the right things instead of you throwing bad ideas with good money and then having to learn the hard way. So in order to do that, guys, just go to uniquedesignz.net, hit the button, book a one-on-one assessment, and just follow the prompts, and we will get that party started. Now, getting back to today's topic, want to introduce my man, Owais Qureshi, back in the house. What's shaking, my dude?
What up, Henry? What up, everyone? Man, this is going to be a good topic as well. You know, this is an appropriate topic to close off the year.
Right. So I just realized I mistyped the word finding. I put kinding in the title. So there you go. That's hilarious. So I want to call myself out on that. All right. So let's talk about this, right? So I feel, and I'm being very cynical here, but I feel like everybody's a branding expert these days. They take three online courses on Skillshare about branding, and now they're an expert. How do you pick? How do you qualify one branding agency from another branding agency? And how do you know that branding agency is going to really come through on their promise? So that's the big problem here, right? So how do we solve this problem? Well, Owais, I love how you have this broken down into a bit of a structure, a bit of a framework, and this is going to be awesome for our audience. And for everybody that's watching live, please, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I don't care if you're on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, or drop them in the comments. We'll get them answered, and we'll get you part of this conversation, because that's why we do these. It's not that, we want to chat with each other, for a half an hour every day. We want to really get you involved and get your questions answered. So whatever is popping up in your head as we're talking, please drop them in the comments and let's have a conversation about it. So how do you want to start this, my friend?
Yeah. So, just to preface, we get this. I'm sure you get this as well. It's like, okay, yeah, we've been talking to a couple of agencies. Or when I'm out at a networking event, we're looking to rebrand. We just don't know where to start. Who do we pick? There's just so many of you guys out there. So, let's help you get some clarity, like you say, and let's help you to, dial into what it is that you should look for, or what you should consider. More importantly, consider, are you even at the stage? Yeah. Are you even at that stage? What is it about your current branding or your business in general that's making you think about getting rebranded or updating your brand or refreshing it, whatever that looks like? What's happening right now? So
let's break down some of those. Yeah. So number one.
So number one, business stage. What is happening in your business stage? Typically, both Henry and I work with businesses that are further down in the line. They're no longer year zero. They're no longer startups. And typically, they want to go beyond the just the bare essentials. Things that they may have gotten at the very beginning, just a logo and a few stationary items and just a quick Square website or a Wix website. nothing wrong with that. But I mean, something that was just more off the shelf, so to speak, to get them started.
Yeah.
And now they have built a sustainable business over the course of the last 5 years to be able to say, look, now we have better clarity on who we serve, who we don't serve, but we want to be able to have that formalized, a
Yeah.
bit more functional, right? So again, yeah, you need better clarity. There now, there are times where we have businesses that are even that have come to me, particularly that have been around for 25 years, and now they need a pivot,
Hmm.
very specific to last year, where they may have been specific to industrial manufacturing, but they were building things that could be applied to other industries as well. They
Hmm.
may have been building or manufacturing items that were specific to the oil and gas industry, but now we were able to take that and apply that exact same functionality to municipalities. So, that's a live use case that we had last year. So, expanding to a new marketplace or expanding to a new industry, and talking to the decision makers in that particular market space, launching a new offering, same thing, right? Or you're now refining your ideal client. I mentioned this earlier,
Hmm.
that who your clients, who you served, you may have been serving just about anyone and everyone to get your business ramped up in year zero.
Hmm.
However, now in year five, you are very, you're refining as to who you can serve and who you don't want to serve.
Yes. And I equate all of this to raising a child. All right, I have a 4-year-old son, and just think about this for a second. Now, you may not have kids, and that's okay, but you may have a pet. Okay, over time, these pets grow. Over time, these kids grow. If I continue to feed my 4-year-old son what I fed him when he was an infant, how do you think his growth would pan out? Right? As they get bigger, they need different nutrients. They need bigger portion sizes, right? When I hear you saying all of this, I'm thinking, yeah, it's very similar to a human being or an animal that you're raising. You're going to have to consistently tweak, add, subtract, and figure out what is the right nutrient for this living organism called your business. So these are some of the business stages that you may be going through right now
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
may
And
have you reconsidering, all right, now it's time to step up
yeah.
my branding.
Or also, I keep forgetting to, I don't know why I left this out, but also hiring new people,
Yeah,
because I keep talking about this. It's like the talent you add is also going to need to buy into your brand.
that's a great point. Yeah, that's a really, really great point. Let me see here if there's anything here I wanna add to. I think you nailed it. So let's get into the second issue that may be coming up for you. You might be in growth mode and you're stuck because you may feel what's working right now is only getting you so far. Maybe you've hit the $1 million mark. Maybe you hit the 500K mark and you're trying to double that or triple that. There's different strategies for all of that.
That's right.
So we have to pay attention to that. And that all comes down to branding, right?
Exactly.
And I love what you put here about budget. Having a budget that's more strategically focused. So you're investing towards more of a functional brand. A lot of times when clients come to me, they say, we got a lot of moving parts inside of our business right now, and none of them are talking to each other. I want a cohesive
That's right.
brand presence where when they come in the front door, They know exactly where to go first, second, third, etc., based on their needs and their challenges and their wants and our solutions. And it's very, very important. I remember David Massover. He's a client of mine right now. We're building out his product brand. We're building out his personal brand simultaneously. And he said, the one thing that I loved about coming through your process is like, I always knew what was coming next. There was no surprises. And it was like, bam, it was right there. Bam, it was right there. Bam, it was right there. So it's like, you really have your shit together. And I think that says a lot about your brand. And that feeling that's radiating from that. So another point here, having your brand assets all working in conjunction with each other. I see this a lot in the funnel world. You know, they got this funnel that looks nowhere near what their brand identity is. It's like this redheaded stepchild over here. Right. Yeah, it may be generating leads and stuff like that, but it looks so spammy because it doesn't look anything like your existing brand. Right. From more of a technical standpoint, when somebody comes on board and is inquiring about your business, you got to do 15 things before they can actually book a call with you.
Yeah.
How is that hindering your business's growth? I'm working with a client right now that's going through that. We get an inquiry and it takes like 6 steps just to get back to them and get them in the right direction. Yeah, that's not going to work, especially when you get 7 or 8 of those at the same time one day. Now what? Your hair's going to look like mine. All right. So having things all working together, when you have a funnel that's very systemized and it's set up in a way that leads your prospect to where you want them without you having to do anything, that to me is a good funnel. That to me is a solid funnel. So now getting into the external considerations. Those are all internal, what we talked about. Now, external considerations when hiring a branding agency is what?
So agency experience is the first one. Agency experience. And, you know, we talked about this offline. You brought up a good point. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten hit with this as well. If a client comes to us, you know, we serve about 9 different industries. However, there are times where they want, or they've spoken to other agencies. They're like strictly focused on one specific industry, like let's say the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll get hit with, so how many of these particular, and of course, you know, when you think about the healthcare industry or particularly medical practices or whatever it might be, you know, they all have like very specific practice areas as well. So they might drill down to, okay, well, how many fertility clinics have you worked with?
Right. Right.
Right. So, and I would probably say that, look, we haven't worked with that many, or we haven't worked with any at all.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, again, it's just an example that I'm throwing out there. Like, look, how is that important for you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes,
they're probably going to say a couple things like terminology, customer base, patient base. We're talking medical, so we'll say patient. You know, do you know our patients as well as you should to make, you know, really informed decisions on what our marketing or branding should be? And those are all valid. I'm not knocking that. I think it's important to understand a market before you start giving out arbitrary advice. Here's my take, because I get that a lot. How many doctors have you worked with, Henry, over your career? Luckily, I've worked with quite a few, but here's what I say. Listen, if you want somebody that just does doctors, go for it, because they're probably going to do for you what they do for all the other doctors they work with. And there's probably going to be a bias associated with that, because they're going to know, well, this is what works for Dr. A. It should work for Dr. B. as well. And that's not necessarily the case, right? And that's number two. The other thing I like to say is, yeah, I've worked with a few doctors and surgeons and this and that. However, let's pick one. Let's pick one that I haven't worked with, right? Let's say, man, what industry haven't I worked in? Man, I can't even think of one. I really can't, and I don't want to waste too much time.
Energy and petroleum.
Okay, the gas industry. Yeah, the gas industry. How many gas companies have you worked with? Well, none. And this is how this is going to be an advantage for you. I'm going to bring you ideas and concepts from different industries that your industry probably is not implementing. So who's going to stick out in the industry after you start working with me? Right? Because I'm always scouting. And that's what I love about working with different industries and different businesses, is because I'm picking from the cannabis industry. I'm picking from the online marketing industry. I'm picking from the restaurant industry. And I could play and mix and match in different industries to see what works. And man, when I'm telling you, what an advantage it is to come into your industry doing what everybody isn't. That's how you're going to get attention. And that's how people are going to be gravitated to you, because you're zagging when everybody's zigging. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, I love that.
And the next one you talk about is agency size. That's really important. Do you want to work with a big outfit? Do you want to work with a mom and pop? Do you want to work with something more boutique? What's your preference? And I would shoot that out to the audience right now. If you were hiring a branding agency, who would you hire? Would you hire a big firm? Would you hire a medium size? You're talking about 15 to 20 employees. Or would you hire something more boutique that has maybe 3 or 4 employees at max, or a team of 3 and 4? That's going to probably give you a way more personal experience than those big guys. Drop them in the comments. Let me know what you would hire. And then, finish up what you were saying. Not finish up, but expand on what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say the agency size is going to be based on your business needs. And of course, again, with the size of your business and the budget that you set forth. So I think all of that reflects what agency you're going to go with. And then also, again, there's agencies out there that are low cost, high volume, and that's all they purely do is, hey, we're just cranking out just a really quick, low cost sort of a brand that's again, off the shelf. We've kind of built a system around it where we're just pulling stuff off the shelf and kind of hacking it together for tons of clients, and that's just our business model. That's okay. That's where it works for them. Or are you looking for, like you indicated earlier, for a more of a personalized, something that is unique to your business?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are, well, then again, now you're expanding that budget to approach an agency that really helps businesses of that nature.
Yeah, I love it. We got some really great. So Michelle says boutique, and I'm going to kick it back to Michelle and ask, why would you choose boutique over the other models of agency? And then Peter says boutique, but it also depends on how much you're investing and how big your company is.
Yeah.
Great point, Pete. Great point. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. If you're a $7-8 million business, chances are, bigger isn't always better. We gotta remember that. Bigger is not always better. But there may be something that they're doing for assurance. And I think this is how I got beat years ago. I tell the story a lot about the food distribution company that wanted to rebrand. They reached out to me, and then when we got pretty much down to the finals, I was beat out by a larger firm, and reasoning was the larger firm looked bigger, looked more experienced, and the bigger firm was actually more money than I was charging as well. But it was an assurance that they were going to get what they wanted.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, you know, but that right there taught me a valuable lesson. I looked to Mickey Mouse. My business at that moment looked way too Mickey Mouse for my skill set. My skill set was there, but my identity was not. And how many, with a raise of hands in the audience, is how many of you guys really know your shit, but you feel like your brand identity isn't quite up to par with the value that you bring to the table? Just curious to see who would admit that. It's a tough one to swallow, man. Listen, that's why I offered. You know, it's the process of growing, guys. Yeah. It's the process of growing. Agency side is less relevant for me than expertise in the niche I'm working in. So I want to challenge Rob and ask Rob, why is experience in the niche so important to you? Even after what I just mentioned in regards to me working in multiple different industries and bringing that versatility into that niched industry and doing things that industry may not be doing. So curious to see why it's so important for you. Let's see. Personalized service, Michelle says that's why she would pick a boutique. I want an agency that considers me as Michelle and not client 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a really great point.
That's a good, yeah.
There's nothing worse than feeling like a number.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, look, there are freelancers out there. There's just one-man shows out there that obviously they don't take, you know, they'll take on one project at a time, but they have a process set up, and they are experts. They have been doing this for 10 years, but they would rather just do it themselves rather than hiring and working with a multitude of people. So, you know, there are guys out there like that. I think both you and I know a couple, Henry, that would much rather just do that all by themselves and consult work out like that. And they do great work, but then they'll charge for that as well, right? If they're not doing right. So they're so much of an expert that now you're paying them equivalent to what you would be paying to even a boutique agency.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, even a mid-scale or a mid-level agency.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you want to stay lean and mean.
Exactly.
But make sure that you're charging, you know, charging your worth. I think it's very, very important that you understand that. Yeah. I went for years as a freelancer, not charging my worth and wondering why I couldn't get past those financial ceilings. Right. Here's great. Rob just responded, so I want to give him a chance to be featured here. I want to make sure that whomever is going to do my brand has in-depth knowledge of my niche. If hiring an agency to launch my new juice product, working with a financial industry agency is not going to get me there, I'm afraid, or it will take a lot longer. Makes sense. Okay. I saw your wheels spinning there, Oasis. I want you to respond. I want you to you know, come back.
I'm going to echo the same thing that you talked about earlier.
Okay.
Because again, we serve 9 different industries. And I'm going to echo the same thing. If we ever get something that's out the bounds of those 9 industries, first of all, of course, again, we're going to qualify it from our side as much as they're qualifying us to make sure that this is going to be a fit and we can help them. You know, we can help them gain the momentum that they're looking for. However, I remind them, one, I lean into that and say, look, we've never worked in this particular industry. However, these are the industries that we will be extrapolating much of our experience from. We will be applying that onto your branding. This will make you stand out from the crowd rather than fit directly into, especially, you know, let's say if it is, you know, a juice distributor,
Yep.
or if it's someone that's a juice manufacturer, whatever that brand might be.
Yep.
But again, you know, with that same philosophy, I would come in and say, look, this is, you know, we're bringing in a diverse thought process here from a multitude of industries.
Right. And I think I understand what Rob is saying too. Yeah. If a financial industry agency, I mean, it would be silly to even reach out to that type of agency, right? But what if you hit an agency that has worked with fitness influencers, right? It's not quite the juice industry, but they have that experience in the fitness wellness space, right? It's still apples and oranges, in my opinion. It's a little closer, but it's still apples and oranges. I get what Rob's saying 100%. It would be silly to do that, right? But what if you have an agency that worked with a broad spectrum of different industries? Is there an advantage to that coming on and helping him brand his juice business, right? I'm going to plant my feet in the ground and say there's a huge advantage to that versus just finding a juice branding agency.
Definitely.
Yeah. I like Peter's point here, and I want to address it. But beyond the investment of hiring a branding agency, most people are looking for a company that has proof of results and one that has integrity. The lack of integrity some of these experts have has created a sour taste to the industry and branding. So they're stuck on price.
I'm curious on, you know, and Peter, you're welcome to chime back in on this. When you say integrity, what's happening there? Because I hear about this a lot, but I'm wondering from your perspective, what about that is you know, is standing out to you in terms of how have they compromised their integrity?
Yeah.
Because we want to be watchful of that, right?
We do. You know, I could give you an example. Okay. I could give you an example while Peter responds, because we're on like a 15, 20-second delay. One of my clients right now hired I'm going to put big air quotes, a branding person earlier this year. And all he got was a bunch of templates to work off of. Right. And he was like, man, does this feel cookie cutter? And I spent a decent amount of money. Right. They also hired a copywriter, and the copywriter did something very, very similar. Had all these like pre-made templates and like plugged in my client's stuff into the templates and like tried to run with it. Now, my client, being a phenomenal writer himself, called bullshit on it all and wound up firing those two vendors immediately. I shouldn't say immediately. It took a couple of months until we actually found each other. But I think that's part of that integrity that I'm talking about. A lot of people talk a big game out on social media, and then when you engage them, you start to see like their real colors and their real process. You talked about process before, and like the process is like bullshit, or they don't have a process at all, which is even more disturbing.
And they're shooting from the hip.
Yeah, because you know, you hire a consultant, and the first call you get on, you know if that person's shooting from the hip or not. I've hired plenty of them in my days, and I get that buyer's remorse right away, and I'm like, how do I get out of this? And it's awful. You know, it's awful.
Yeah.
And here's Peter saying integrity is promising something and not doing it.
Yeah.
It's the
Not following through.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that too. And that's that. Let's give some of these guys and gals the benefit of the doubt, because I went through that. And it wasn't that I was lacking integrity. I was lacking the internal structure in my business to fulfill. So I have a soft spot for some of these folks. Some of these folks are just straight out to scam and take your money, right? That's all they're worried about. But then there's another batch of folks that really do truly care about doing a good job and delivering on promise. They're just going through some internal struggles or growing pains, and they need to sort that out, right? And so I think how you get through that is being extremely transparent with your client.
Yeah.
And some may say, that's a little dicey for me, putting all my cards on the table. Here's what I say. Listen, it's better to tell the truth than to try to fake it.
Exactly.
It's eventually going to catch up to you.
You know, when I went through that a couple of years back, Henry, I purposely slowed everything down. And I was like, I will not, first of all, I'm not going to take on any work that I cannot fulfill. It's going to be, it's going to end up diminishing my brand and the reputation overall. Yeah. And so if we can't fulfill it, and if we're already struggling to fulfill what we already have because there's cracks in our process, let's fix that first. Yes. And yes, we all have financial obligations. We all have, specific overhead that we need to be able to make sure is being covered. However, now if you're looking at that and you're monitoring your finances and saying, okay, well, we can accept these additional projects to break through a specific ceiling. However, there's a risk to that because our kitchen's already struggling as is.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. I always say this, and I said this at that time, and I'm going to say it again: fix your kitchen first.
Yes. Yeah, it's an inside game for sure. It's an inside game. It starts with mindset, and works down, into human resources and processes and procedures and frameworks and all of that. So it's very, very important. So to wrap all this up in a nice red bow for you guys.
And process was our last one, by the way. So that was it.
Yeah. We weaved it in nicely. I thought. To wrap all this up in a nice red bow for you guys, the one thing that I really want you to get across is this. We want to get across is this. At the end of the day, no matter who you're hiring as a branding agency, you have to hire who you trust, and you have to trust who you hire. Once you make that commitment, you have to say to yourself, all right, I'm keeping my hands out of this. I trusted them enough to make this investment, and I am moving forward, and I've done my diligence. I've done my research. They have proven their integrity. They've proven their expertise. Let's go. And that's the best, I think, advice I have ever given from a mentor. And has there been times where I jumped the gun and hired people without that? Absolutely. I don't blame them. I blame me. But in 2022, I'll tell you something right now. Anybody that I hire is going to get thoroughly vetted. And we're going to talk about this next week, because next week's topic on Wednesday specifically is, what have Awais and I learned in 2021 as not only business owners, but as people. Through the experiences that we've had this year, what were some of the big takeaways? And man, do I have a laundry list I want to go through. So that's going to be Wednesday's topic. So let me wrap this up by saying this. I want to know from you guys that were watching this live, or maybe you guys that are catching the replay right now, what was the biggest takeaway from this conversation? What was the aha? What was the, I'm going to use that next time. I want you to drop it in the comments, no matter where you're watching. And let's expand on that, because I'm so curious to hear from you guys and get inside of your heads, because the one thing that we have to pay attention to moving forward in 2022 and beyond, if you're not already doing this, is got to get inside the heads of your audience. You do. And you got to know what they're struggling with, what they're thinking, because the way you present yourself online will go so much further when you do. And you're going to make such a stronger impact to them, because you're going to be speaking straight at them. So there you have it, folks.
And on the pulse.
Have an amazing day. We'll see you Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, with the What Would You Do If series. And again, anybody that's interested in participating in that, drop in the comments anywhere. Hey, listen, I got a topic for your Monday series. I would love for you guys to talk about this. Please drop it down, and we'll pick it up, and we'll definitely schedule it as a topic for a future live stream. So have an amazing day, guys, and we'll catch you next week. Take care.